point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 613th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Nancy Wolf. Oh, there we go. Nancy is not here today. Unfortunately, she's under the weather, but I'm sure she'll be back next time. It's always better when she's here. I'm recording this on the 27th of February, 2025. And what we're looking at here is a series of actually 21 articles that come from my blog, geoharvey.com, where I do daily news aggregation of news that has to do with energy and climate change. So this show is, as Tom Fennell used to say, the best of the blog. And we're starting on the 20th of February, which is a Thursday. I should say, if you want to look at the sources for the articles that I'm talking about, they can be found at my blog, geoharvey.com, where you can click on the date to get a list of usually 15 articles, just the synopses. And you can find an article pretty quickly there. But you can also go down on the screen if you can do it, because some people can't. You can go down on the screen to find a separate news site, which is a site that where the articles that are specifically listed in this show up day by day. It's the easiest way to get to them. So anyway, we're starting on the 20th of February, a Thursday, and we start with a picture of the Aletsch Glacier, which is the largest glacier in Europe, I believe. This comes from the BBC. The title is "World's Glaciers Melting Faster Than Ever Recorded." The world's glaciers are melting faster than ever recorded under the impact of climate change, according to the most comprehensive scientific analysis to date. And the pace of melting is increasing. Over the past decade or so, glacial losses were more than 1/3 higher than they were for the period of the years 2000 through 2011. And I should mention the glaciers. Glaciers can be measured as they're melting. You can get a pretty accurate idea of the amount of water that comes off the glacier, and you can get a pretty accurate idea of the amount of snow that is added to a glacier over a winter. In a stable climate, the amount of snow that they get, the amount of water that they lose is approximately equal year after year. It might be that the snow is heavier one year than the melt. It might be that the melt is greater than the snow. But they have not achieved stability in certainly the last 2 decades. And that's a pretty good indicator that there's something wrong. And the fact is, I remember, I think it was 55 years ago. Is that right? No, 65 years ago. I went to school. There was a little girl there, 12 years old probably, who was upset because she had seen a show on television, which, as I recall, was put on by National Geographic. But it said the glaciers in Glacier National Park were melting. And the teacher said, well, they aren't going to melt while you're alive. They will still be there. The fact is they are still there for the most part. Some of them have disappeared. but the ones that people like to see are still there. They are a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit like a mile shorter, but they're still there. They're still impressive. It's still worth going, I think. But they have been melting for quite a while. Okay. The next item we're up to is from Renews. We have a picture of a wind farm. And the title of this is Avangrid passes 10 gigawatt generation capacity milestone. The Iberdrola subsidiary Avangrid, which is the American subsidiary, passed 10 gigawatts of installed energy generating capacity in the United States. The company owns and operates a mix of generation resources in 24 states that contribute to its 10.5 gigawatt of installed capacity, including onshore wind, solar, natural gas, hydropower, and fuel cells. You'll notice that natural gas is in there. The 10 gigawatt that is being of capacity that's being reported does not claim all to be natural gas. Renewables. It does have natural gas in it. But the majority of what they've got, the overwhelming majority, is in fact not natural gas. Okay, I'm going to go straight out of that to an article about BYD. This article is from Clean Technica. The title of it is China Dominates. I'm going to put that up so you can see it. China dominates global EV industry. BYD founder and CEO Wang Chuanfu said that Chinese new energy vehicles are 3 to 5 years ahead of most of the rest of the world. Not most of the rest, the rest. He called for less restrictive trade policies to allow more people to experience them. He called for openness and innovation so the world could see how good Chinese products are. Now, that might surprise people because we tend to think of Tesla as being way out ahead of everybody else. We will talk about that more in this show, but I want to point something out here. In its most recent period, Tesla sold 7,500 cars in China. Tesla has a factory in China. The factory sells cars into the Chinese market. It also sells cars that are exported from China. But Tesla does have a factory there, and it sells cars there, and it sold 7,500 of them. BYD sold 46,800. It's a big difference between 7,500 and 46,800. And by the way, Tesla was number 2 in China. BYD was number 1, and number 2 had 7,500. Number 1 had 46,800. What we're seeing here is that BYD is outselling everybody else. I'm not going to claim that BYD is outselling everybody combined. I don't have a figure for that. But BYD is a powerhouse, and it's getting bigger very, very rapidly. Meanwhile, Tesla is losing sales, and we will get to that also. We are up to Friday, February 21st. We have a picture of a solar farm, which is just labeled renewable energy for this. I don't know why. I must have chopped off some wind turbines when I put that up. This is from Clean Technica also. It's the title of the article is Unleashing American Renewable Energy Dominance. U.S. fossil energy producers are finding a dream come true in the Trump administration, but, quote, American energy dominance, end quote, is a day late and a dollar short. That's the takeaway from a new market report by Bloomberg NEF titled Sustainable Energy in America 2025 Fact Book. There are a bunch of things going on simultaneously here. First of all, I think everybody knows that if you are, let me put this way. There is a saying that somebody came up with. If you want to make a small fortune, one way to do it is inherit a big fortune and blow it. Now, one way to blow a fortune is to buy into the stock market high and sell out of the stock market low, because chances are you're going to sell for much lower than you bought. And that, I think, is the first thing that we could note when we take a look at the fact that American energy dominance, which includes, by the way, an emergency declaration by the President of the United States, that dominance he's trying to establish in a marketplace where it is already in place. So he has said that he wants to establish market dominance, and he's doing that by using an emergency declaration to prevent offshore wind farms from being built, prevent many onshore wind farms from being built, and basically do a bunch of things aside from that, push fracking. That fact that he has done that is being used as an excuse for organizations like BP to back off of renewable energy, because they see that the United States is going to be trying to sell more fossil fuels, and they want to be in on that bandwagon. So the president's trying to sell fossil fuels from the United States, as the United States is already the biggest seller in the world, is already creating its own competition. But in addition to that, Donald Trump is creating tariffs. And the countries that he's putting tariffs on are saying, in the case of Europe and China, they don't want to buy American oil or gas, because the oil and gas industry is, they're basically targeting the oil and gas industry as a legitimate target for in a trade war. So we're creating, as a country, we're creating our opposition. In addition to that, we are finding that our biggest customers are not going to buy from us anymore. They're going to buy from Canada. The Canadians are not buying from us. They're creating their own. This is not going to work, I don't think. So there we have it. I'm going to put up the next article. This is a cute little home wind turbine. That is, I don't know how tall that is. It might be 6 feet or 8 feet tall. It's not very big. It rotates on a vertical axis. It does that very slowly compared to a turbine that is that same size with blades. This article comes from BBC. It's titled, "Home Wind Turbines Could Be Part of Energy Plan." Home wind turbines could form part of Guernsey's renewable energy future. Now, Guernsey, of course, is one of the Channel Islands. It's off the coast of France in the Channel. According to a local green energy firm. According to Little Green Energy Company, the turbines could be part of the island's renewable ecosystem alongside offshore wind farms and solar panels. I should mention, as part of this discussion, Guernsey is one of the Channel Islands, also Jersey, Alderney, various other places. I've never been on Guernsey. I have been on Jersey. The Channel Islands are not part of the UK. They are dependencies. They're they have a very close association, like the Isle of Man and other places of that nature. But they're basically self-governing with interference from the UK Parliament. And what they're doing here is they're saying, we want that kind of wind turbine, which people could put up at their homes, on their roofs possibly, but in their backyards or whatever. And there are places in Guernsey. And if it's going to be part of Guernsey's renewable energy future, it's almost unquestionably going to be part of Jersey's renewable energy future. So we'll see how that goes. These things, by the way, have been around for a long time. That design that works on a vertical axis where the wind is blowing from the side has its advantages. They've been around for a long time, and here we are. Okay, we've got another article here. This is from Renews, and it's just an example of local transmission in sheep. The title is Step Change Needed in Distribution Grid Investment. A step change in investment in the UK's local electricity networks is necessary to achieve the government's growth mission and lower long-term energy costs for consumers, the British government's independent infrastructure advisor says. Demand is set to double by 2050, and the grid is growing too slowly. A lot of the reason why the grid is growing too slowly is because demand is increasing quickly. And if the grid doesn't grow, even with coal shut down, even if gas shuts down, the amount of renewable energy that they put on is not going to be enough, because the amount of demand that they have is outgrowing the grid. It's outgrowing all suppliers. But what they're saying is they need a grid. I'm going to say I don't think that's really the case. What they could do is use distributed energy and have it set up in microgrids. If they do that, they could have, use the grid that they've got. But the point is, the demand is increasing. If they're going to use microgrids to deal with that, they're going to have to become proactive about microgrids. If they're not going to be proactive about microgrids, and frankly, I don't think they will, they're going to have to be proactive about building grids up more than they have been. Okay, the next item that we've got, whoops, wrong mouse. We're up to Saturday, February 22nd. We have a picture of an offshore wind farm, and this item is from Renews. The title is UK Plans CFD Reforms to Boost Offshore Wind. What is a CFD reform? It is a contract for difference reform. CFD is contract for difference. The UK government is seeking to clear the way for most offshore wind projects as it launched a consultation on proposed reforms to this year's AR15 contracts for difference auction. The UK is home of the world's 3 largest operating offshore wind farms, but it needs more for clean power by 2030. They have a goal to get to clean power by 2030, and in order to do that, they're going to have more offshore wind farms. Offshore wind farms logically would have to be plugged into the grid. You'd be hard pressed to design a project that would have offshore wind farms in a microgrid. However, we have, I'll go on. Here we have a picture of The article is from Clean Technica. We have a picture of Timberline solar ES2 solar shingles from GAF Energy. And these are nailable shingles that produce electricity. The title is GAF unveils its next-gen nailable solar shingle, now 23% more powerful. GAF Energy, a leading solar roofing manufacturer and subsidiary of Standard Industries, launched the next generation of its groundbreaking Timberline solar energy shingles. GAF Energy will manufacture the shingles in California and Texas. Now, these solar shingles, aside from the fact that they look very boring in this picture, they sit on a wall where they're supposed to integrate visually with the shingles that are already there. I think GAF could have done a better job of doing that in this particular case, but that's neither here nor there. Roofing shingles that produce that are photovoltaic and produce electricity have been around for a while. Tesla introduced them, I think, in a plant in Buffalo, New York. I might be wrong about the city, but they are being manufactured in New York. As far as I know, they're still being manufactured. They have not pushed those solar shingles very hard, and my suspicion is that the reason is because they're finding a lot of resistance to them. Solar shingles are expensive, and it may be, even with these shingles that are 23% more powerful, it may be that the shingles are much more expensive than a standard solar system. I don't know. I didn't see prices in the article, but if you're interested in this kind of thing, my suggestion is look into it, but don't expect that it's definitely going to be a successful search for the cheapest option, because I don't believe that it is the cheapest option. Okay, we have a picture of a solar array, and that is from Duke Energy. And this article is from Duke Energy, which means that I didn't get it from Renews or Clean Technica or ABC News or BBC or something. It went up on the Duke Energy website, and that's where I got it. The title of this article is Duke Energy Florida files plans for 4 new solar energy sites. Duke Energy Florida is investing over $521 million to establish solar sites in 4 counties of Florida. These sites are expected to save customers a total of $843 million over their lifetimes. Honestly, I don't remember what the lifetime is, but it is very possibly 20 years. It might be 25. Sometimes you see warranty periods that are longer than 25, but that's the kind of time period in which this is operating. Each of the 4 74.9 megawatt solar sites will generate enough electricity to power about 23,000 homes. And that's what Duke Energy has filed plans for. This is, well, Duke Energy has produced, I don't remember, 6, 8 of these sites that are almost 75 megawatts, and it was working on them last year and it finished them. So now it's kind of plugging on with more. These are all going into Florida. So that's basically where that is. We are up to Sunday, February 23rd, and we have a graphic of renewable energy being produced, actually wind power being produced. This is from Clean Technica. The title of the article is Xcel Energy is keeping its renewable energy train on the rails. U.S. President Donald Trump practically snuffed out the entire U.S. offshore wind industry upon taking office. Nevertheless, activity still keeps bubbling up onshore, as illustrated by the new Upper Midwest Energy Plan presented by the gigantic utility Xcel Energy. To say that Donald Trump practically snuffed out the entire offshore wind industry when he took office is saying something that I think is quite a bit too simple. As I understand it, and at least this was something that people in Washington, I think Donald Trump said it, but it might have been one of his helpers. They are not stopping offshore wind farms that are being built, and there are some that are being built. What they're stopping is the ones that on which no action has been taken as yet. They don't want wind farms to be put up offshore, and but they don't want people to be fired from the wind farms that are already there. They don't want the utilities that have already committed money to be unable to get that money. They want as I understand it, they want the wind farms that are already under construction to continue. And I don't know exactly what part of construction they're willing to accept. There are a number of developers who have backed out of the U.S. market because they don't see a way to get the hostility that has been produced in Washington is something that they interpret as a threat to their ability to make money. Remember, an offshore wind farm is not just a bunch of turbines out in the water. There has to be a way to get the electricity to land. It has to be put together so that 10 or 15 or 20 wind turbines will provide electricity to a substation, and that will send its electricity to land. So the substation has to be built. The cables from the turbines to the substation, from the substation to land, have to be built. The place where the cable comes ashore has to be developed. All of this gets developed. It's all very big. I don't know that anybody needs to have a comment on the picture here. Wind blows, number one is wind on the left at the top. Windmills, wrong designation. These are not windmills, they're wind turbines. A windmill is there to mill grain usually. And the Dutch windmills that we talk about are mostly not windmills, they're wind pumps. The turbines are connected to generators. The generators send electricity to the transformers, and then it gets into the distribution system and gets to your home. And there you have it. Okay, the next picture we have is a picture of a golf course. And let me put that up. This is from a publication that is called Study Finds, F-I-N-D-S. And the title of the article is, Are Golf Courses Being Prioritized Over Renewable Energy? At a time when countries race to build more solar panels and wind turbines to fight climate change, a study from Institute Jülich Systems Analysis in Germany reveals a striking fact. In many nations, golf courses take up more land than all their renewable energy projects combined. In the United States, we have something like 21 million acres of land in golf courses. And I don't know that that's less than we have in renewable energy, but based on the way that I read this article, I would say it sounds like it is. And the amount of land that we need to address all our energy needs is not exactly small, and the amount of golf courses is big, but it's really not more than 10% of the land that would be used if we got all of our electricity from the sun. Excuse me. Nevertheless, this is a 2.1 million acres is a lot of land. Okay. Our next item is a story about the Palisades fire and the other fires in Los Angeles. The picture is Palisades fire destruction. This is a picture that I got from Wikipedia, and it is just a picture of the destruction of the Palisades fire. I find it interesting the number of homes here that appear to be untouched. For example, on the block that's kind of in the middle bottom, it looks like there were 7 homes, and of those 3 are still standing. There's at least 1, and it looks like there might be 2 or even 3 in the block next farther away. On the left, there are 4 houses on a block. This is all the way to the left that are still standing. Nevertheless, there was a huge amount of destruction in the Palisades fire. And the article that we have here is from ABC News. The title is California governor asks Congress for nearly $40 billion for Los Angeles wildfire relief. California Governor Gavin Newsom has asked Congress to approve nearly $40 billion in aid to help the Los Angeles area recover from January's devastating wildfires. He said those fires could become the costliest natural disaster in the history of the United States. Costliest. Yes, they could become among the costliest. I don't think they could be the costliest. I think Hurricane Katrina was over $200 billion. And Hurricane Harvey was over $150 billion. And he's asking for $40 billion, which is probably a fraction of what is needed to recover. Much of what's needed will be supplied by insurance companies, the owners themselves, and so forth. There's not much way to avoid that. However, one thing about the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire and so forth, the other fires in that area, is there were not very many people killed by those fires, so we can be thankful for that. Okay, going on. We are up to Monday, February 24th. We have a picture of the White Lee Wind Farm. This is from a publication called Inkl, which is spelled I-N-K-L. The title of the article is Scotland's renewable energy share is the best in Europe. So why are energy bills so high? Let me put that up so you can see it. Scotland's renewable technologies covered 113% of its overall electricity demand in 2022, according to statistics from the Scottish government. Now that figure, of course, would have gone up since 2022 because they're still adding renewables. The reason that bills are so high is that energy is a reserved matter. Scotland cannot create its own market. Let me explain that. a reserved matter means that this is not something the Scottish Parliament can deal with. This is something that falls under the purview of the government of the UK. So the energy that's being produced in Scotland is not for sale in Scotland only. It's sold across the UK, and Scotland's Scottish energy is being sold to England and Wales, possibly Northern Ireland. I don't know. I believe there are links between Scotland and Northern Ireland, but the Scots have built renewable energy which is more than what is needed to supply themselves. And their energy bills are high because they're paying for the highest cost of electricity. That's the way the system works there. And they're paying for it as it appears on the UK market, not the Scottish market, because there is no Scottish market. So they're paying for electricity at the rate that is being charged for natural gas. Okay, I'm going to go on. We have a picture of Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. And this is an important woman. I think she's the first commissioner of the European Commission. The title is EU Support to Boost Ukraine Renewables Expansion. The European Commission offered a support package to Ukraine to secure its energy system and enable its full integration into the European energy market. This package will allow the full coupling of Ukraine's electricity market together with Moldova's. Remember Moldova? Moldova, it's a small country along the Danube between Ukraine and Romania. I believe it's along the Danube. The package will allow for full coupling with the EU by early 2027. This is something that is very much in flux right now. It's partly in flux because President Trump has gone and talked with Vladimir Putin, and the United States had regarded Ukraine as an ally. But Vladimir Putin's logic, which is very similar to Saddam Hussein's in this respect, because Saddam Hussein looked at an old map. He said, look, Kuwait in this map is part of Iraq. We should get it back. Vladimir Putin's argument is Ukraine should be part of Russia. It is part of Russia. Therefore, we should be allowed to go in and take it. This is a dangerous precedent. The Russians, prior to Putin, had signed an agreement with Ukraine saying that they would protect its borders, respect them and protect them, in exchange for Ukraine giving up its nuclear weapons, which it did. This was guaranteed by Britain, the United States, and as I recall, France. I think that happened in 1996 or 1997. If Russia can take Ukraine back in that manner, well, why can't it take Alaska? Alaska used to be part of Russia, and I have heard Russians in positions of authority say that they believe that they should get Alaska back. They think that they should be allowed to take a U.S. state because they owned it 150 years ago. 150? No, it's longer than that. 160 or 170 years ago. It was called Russian America. By the way, I got a really neat book the other day. It was Mitchell's primary school geography book, and it had been published in 1843, and it had has maps in it, still has them, showing Texas as an independent republic, shows Alaska as Russian America. It shows Canada. Canada is a strip of land from Lake Huron to the Gulf of St. Lawrence, mostly on the north side of the St. Lawrence River. The rest of what we call Canada is called British America. There is no nation called Germany. Well, it depends on what you'd call a nation. There is no government of Germany. Germany is an area where people speak German. It's it's basically all of Prussia, Bavaria, Württemberg, a bunch of small duchies and kingdoms and so forth. And a lot of it, possibly most of it, is in Austria in the maps. Italy is divided up into a bunch of different countries. Things have changed. Okay, I'm going to go on. We have a wind farm, wind turbines in Puerto Rico. This article is from Clean Technica. Big oil must deliver the goods under landmark climate litigation ruling. A federal magistrate judge has ruled that a first-of-its-kind lawsuit against ExxonMobil, Shell, and other leading oil firms can proceed to the discovery stage, opening a window into a decades-old curtain of industry efforts to keep the public in the dark about climate change. Climate change and a bunch of other things, like what have these companies done about climate change? Have they been suppressing it? This case does not mean that the companies have lost the case. It means that they have to come up with the goods that have been subpoenaed. In this case, it is in Puerto Rico, I'm reading from my notes, where 37 communities brought the suit. The suit is being pursued under the RICO Act. RICO is Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. So that's where we are. But this is a big win, because it means that the various, these oil companies are being held to task. It'll be interesting to see where this will go. I think they can appeal the discovery phase, and they probably will. Okay, we have a picture here of a butterfly, and that looks a lot like a monarch butterfly, but it isn't. It's a striped tiger butterfly, closely related to a monarch butterfly, but monarch butterflies are native to the New World, and the tiger butterflies are native to the Old World, Europe and Asia primarily. This article is from ABC News. The title is "In Rome, Talks to Protect Earth's Biodiversity Resume with Money Topping the Agenda." Doesn't money always top the agenda? An annual UN conference on biodiversity will resume its work in Rome after it ran out of time last year. How to spend the money that has been pledged so far is at the top of the agenda, along with how to raise a lot more to help preserve plant and animal life. That basically kind of says it all, I think. It's a beautiful butterfly, but we're in trouble. The glaciers are melting. The days are hotter. We're not in a good situation, and it's going to take a lot of work to get things active again the way they should be. Okay, the next article comes from Railway News. That picture looks to me like it's computer generated. California high-speed rail. The title of this article is California High-Speed Rail Seeks Public Input on Renewable Energy Sites. The California High-Speed Rail Authority is to start public scoping process for the environmental impact report of the Central Valley Photovoltaic and Battery Energy Storage System project. Deep breath. Members of the public and agencies can give input related to the project. Now, what's happening here is the high-speed rail system is going to be provided with electricity from batteries and PVs, photovoltaics, and batteries in California. And they want to, before they build it, they are consulting the public to find out how people feel about this. I guess that's really all there is to say about that. That roof of that building that the train is in and the people are walking in just looks too regular, doesn't it? Okay. The next item is from Renews. This is a picture of YNO 320, which appears to be the name of a ship. Ulstein launches News CSOV for BS offshore. Now that is the title, and it's pretty cryptic, I admit. Let me read the synopsis here. Ulstein Werft, I'm going to say Werft. I don't even know what language I've got here, but it's Germanic one way or the other. Launched a state-of-the-art commissioning service operation vessel, that's what a CSOV is, for BS Offshore. BS Offshore is an offshore wind support organization, and Ulstein Werft is the organization that launched that ship. The new YNO 320 can accommodate up to 132 crew members and clients. Its diesel-electric propulsion system and substantial battery energy storage will significantly reduce its environmental impact. So what we're looking at there is a system this is a ship that is designed specifically to carry people to offshore wind farms for whatever purposes they're going to be there for, and in a fair number. So I don't know, but I would imagine that they're going to be taking people out for maintenance primarily. But you know, this is not a recreational cruise. This is a working vessel, and it looks weird because it's a type of weird vessel. So I'm going to go on, and we're up to Wednesday, February 26th. We have a solar farm. This is an image from an organization called Greening. The article came from Renews. Greening to build Uniper PV project. That's the title. Greening has been awarded an EPC contract to develop a solar park in an ash dump of the former Wilhelmshaven thermal power plant owned by Uniper in the federal state of Lower Saxony. The project will have an installed capacity of 17 megawatts and will house more than 28,500 solar modules. Now, I should point out here that for every article of this type that appears at the show, there's dozens of others of the same size. 17 megawatts is not very big. It's kind of hard to report on all of them. I don't even know how many there are. And if I tried to count, I would not get them all. In fact, I'm not sure that I'd get 50% of them. So I use these. This is an interesting article because it's just an interesting article. Renews puts it up. It's a short article. The Renews is a place where you can get articles that cost money behind a paywall, or you can get articles that don't. And the ones that don't are gathered together. They're free. They're easy to access. They are all short, however. Some of them are only 3 paragraphs long, and the paragraphs themselves are not very long. So that's something to consider. But in this case, we have 17 megawatts, and it's one of many. It's interesting to me that the solar farm is being housed in a former thermal power plant in the waste dump, the ash dump of the former thermal power plant. This is what's called a brownfield. It's a site that is contaminated. In order to make a brownfield workable again, you have to do something with it to clean it up. The requirements for solar panels are much easier to deal with than some other things. You would not, for example, want to build a school on that, or a housing project or anything else without putting a serious effort into making it clean. Solar panels, the effort is much easier to deal with. Okay, we're up to an article from ABC News. We have a picture of 3 cyclones, and the thing that's interesting about these cyclones is that they're all near the coast of Australia. Let me read this is from ABC News. Let me read the title. 3 tropical cyclones are swirling in the South Pacific. There are 3 tropical cyclones in the South Pacific. There might actually be more than these, but these are the ones that we're worried about. Scientists say this is unusual. You can see them there. They're very close to each other. Tropical cyclones Ray, Saru, and Alfred are all churning as the region is in the peak of a season that starts in November and ends in April. It's basically the flip side of the season that we have in the northern hemisphere. Scientists say there is extremely active weather for this time of year. This is extremely active weather, and it's with the climate change going on, there's active weather all over the world. In fact, I should point out, I don't have an article for this week, but the world in January was the warmest it has ever been in January, except in North America. Not all of North America, because northern Canada was way above normal, but the United States was cold. So if you feel like you were experiencing cold weather, you were. But the United States was the only place that had any large group of people who were experiencing cold weather. Everybody else was over the temperature. Getting back to this particular article, the difference, the reason these are called cyclones is because that's the term for a cyclonic storm in that part of the world. Hurricanes all happen around North America. In fact, I think it used to be that hurricanes were only in the Atlantic. Same kind of storm, it's just called a hurricane instead of a cyclone. Now hurricanes are in the Pacific. I don't know if that's because the hurricane is a new phenomenon there, or if they're starting to call it by a different name, or maybe they were always called hurricanes. I don't know. But the hurricanes that we get are in the Atlantic, and the reason is because they're in the Atlantic, not because there's anything different between them and cyclones that happen elsewhere in the world. Okay, and by the way, a monsoon is an entirely different thing, not a storm like a hurricane. Okay, Let's see. Oh, yes. Here we go. Here we have an article from Clean Technica. This is today's last article. And the title of the article is Bad News for Oil, Digital Twin Optimizes Wind Power to Decarbonize Cargo Ships. This is something that has come up over and over again. We've had it on this show before. It just happened to come into the news this week. The global cargo shipping industry has been looking at wind power to help push dirty bunker fuel oil out of the way. The question is how much oil could be offset by equipping a ship with wind devices. An AI-enabled digital twin has the answers. So what they're doing is they're using AI to determine whether that ship, I should say how much oil that ship is going to use. The bunker fuel that's used on ships is called bunker fuel because it's stored in bunkers. And the bunker is a place from which it can be offloaded to fill the tanks in the ship. Bunker fuel is a number 6 fuel oil. It is very dirty, and cargo ships have got a huge carbon footprint that just gets in the way. Now, I'm up to the end of the day. I'm going to suggest that you have an impressively positive week. Before I go, because I've got about 3 minutes left, I want to tell you about Harvey's laws. These are mine. These are my laws. They were originated when I decided that Murphy's Law, or Murphy's Laws, because there's a bunch of them, was not really, it didn't sound good enough to me, so I decided I'd make my own. Harvey's first law is when a large enough group of people believe something over a long enough period of time, it is safe to regard that thing as having a foundation in fact, in reality. That isn't a law. It's just called a law. Murphy's Law isn't a law. It's called a law. Nobody's proved it. But, you know, it sounds good. And it prepares you for Harvey's second law, which is if an overwhelmingly large group of people, large part of a population, suddenly comes to believe in the truth of a new thing, any connection between that thing and the truth is purely coincidental. That's not a law either. But, you know, it sounds good. Harvey's third law, however, can be proven. It's not a very good law. It doesn't mean anything, but it sounds interesting. And it is the likelihood of something extremely unlikely happening is extremely high. Now, that law can be proven easily because it doesn't specify what the thing is. And if you consider that we've got an infinite number of, or an extremely large number of extremely unlikely things that could happen, at least 1 or 2 or 5 or 27 of them is going to happen on any given day. You look at them in retrospect and you say, yeah, that happened. And it just looks like it's completely unlikely. And that explains why you can look at things and say, that doesn't look like it could possibly happen. There's got to be some explanation. The explanation is it was just a thing that could happen. Harvey's fourth law is there are things that happen that Harvey's third law can't explain. Those are Harvey's laws.